Have you ever been trapped in a cycle of saying yes when every fiber in your being screams no? Are you tired of wearing the Superwoman cape only to find that it's woven from threads of unreasonable expectations and exhaustion? What if I told you that the true strength lies not in the cape, but in the courage to take the cape off? Welcome back, Sophisticates. Davina Dandridge here. We're diving deep into the topic close to my heart, and it's crucial for all of us: breaking free from the restraints of people pleasing and the superwoman fallacy. Drawing from my own experience as a recovering people pleaser and my knowledge of emotional intelligence, let's start on a journey towards genuine self worth and sophisticated empowerment. I'm a recovering people pleaser because I'm constantly developing my skill to say no. And it can be difficult sometimes because my desire for a happy and fulfilling life includes a future where the people that I love and care about are happy and fulfilled too. Sometimes my people pleasing is hard to recognize because it comes in the form of maybe my sharing my expertise with people or offering advice, if somebody asks me. But the most clever disguise of my people pleasing is in my unconditional and selfless love for my family. And that's where most people who are people pleasers that I've come in contact with, they want to do what's best for their family. Like I can tell you specifically, my sister and my daughter, I talk to them every day. And not just one time a day, not just in the morning or not just in the evening, but all throughout the day. And we're all busy. My daughter's away at school. My sister's running her business. I'm running and developing my business. So we all have different schedules in different states, in different time zones. But I make time to speak with them when they reach out to me because I want to know what's going on with them. And I want them to know that I want to know, if that makes sense. So I have to devise a way to still be engaged with them and know what they're doing, but still manage my emotions, manage my time, and make sure that I am genuinely using this time wisely to connect with them and not just doing it as an act of people pleasing. It's taken me some time for me to start taking off my superwoman cape. It can be difficult. But with self examination and asking yourself the big questions, that's the only way to determine if you're, being a good friend or a good wife or a mom or being a good boss or employee, or to determine if you are just out of bounds, that you've just immersed yourself in this people pleasing sphere. Many of your days are stressful and draining. How could they not? But ask yourself, what are some of the ways that people pleasing shows up for you? Here's what I can tell you to do. If these words resonate with you, I invite you to explore deeper with my book, Brains and Baubles Do What Works for You. It's a guide to navigating life's complexity with grace and strength. And it's available at my website, www.davinadandridge.com. This is your companion for curating the life that you want, a life of elegance and empowerment. But in my journey, I've seen firsthand how the desire for approval can ensnare you. It can entangle you into doing things that are really not what you're supposed to be doing. Like you, I felt the weight of expectations, the silent pressure to conform and to please. But here's the truth: in seeking to please everyone, you risk losing yourself. People pleasing is a behavior. One psychological principle of people pleasing is the fear of rejection, where individuals engage in pleasing behaviors to avoid criticism or disapproval of others. When you have not identified or you haven't started to manage some of your triggers, you will continue to people please until you address the trigger that's causing this from your past. The trigger from my past that makes me go far beyond what's necessary to show accountability or to show my capability or my ability to love has to do with people assuming that I'm lazy. And, in all transparency, growing up, I did keep a messy room, but it was messy, not dirty, mostly clothes and books and things like that. I wasn't lazy. My parents were business owners and they worked 6 or 7 days a week. So my mom would hire someone to clean and organize our home. So, with that being done, I wasn't like some of my friends or like some of the people that I know. I didn't have to do the same chores every weekend and make sure that my room was a certain way and wash clothes. I mean, I'm not saying I never did those things, but it wasn't a requirement for me. So when I got around people, my friends, and when I became an adult and I would see how people operated in a certain way, it would make me feel like, did I miss out on something? Am I less than adequate? Am I not equipped? So then it had me to do things over and above to make up where what I thought was a shortcoming and also what I thought everyone was scrutinizing me for. But here is my sophisticated empowerment principle. And this helps me recognize when I have a triggered response. And I encourage you to write this down so that you can use this as well. I've said this before, but I'll keep saying it until it gets into you. And I say this to myself: my emotions impact my thinking. My thinking impacts my behavior. And my behavior impacts my environment. Once I've identified that my environment of stress and chaos is constructed by my behavior, then I'm able to work on a plan to change my environment by changing my behavior. See, it all works together. I say no to the activities that don't work for me. That's the title of my book. It's in the title. Do what works for you, right? I say no to activities that cause me stress or cost time or just are unnecessary. But I determine these conditions. No one else does it for me. This process first starts by contemplation and practicing self awareness. This is where the big questions come in. So, in the article, Keeping Up the Big Questions by Jawed Kaleem for the Huffington Post, Kaleem asks big questions like, how can we live a good life? And what is the meaning of life? These questions are like road signs that they help us to understand why people pleasing is a problem. They're big arching questions, but if we drill down, we'll find out why we are people pleasing and how that relates to those questions about what life is truly about. Because if you're people pleasing, you're always trying to make others happy, but you forget about yourself. That's what people pleasing does. It prioritizes everyone else perceived wants and needs before your own. And you're the one that's perceiving that. It's like trying to find the meaning of life by constantly doing things for other people and not thinking about what makes you happy. But here's the thing: the answers to these big questions are personal. They're about finding your own purpose and your own happiness. So if you're stuck in the people pleasing trap, you miss out on discovering what really matters to you. In a nutshell, those big questions in the article show us that it's important to recognize when we're trapped in people pleasing because it alters us in such a detrimental way. People pleasing is like taking a detour from our own journey to finding meaning and happiness to do all these other activities that don't help us get where we want to go. So here's what I'll tell you to do: reflect on a recent yes, a time that you say yes to something that it should have been a no. What made you make that decision? Was it fear? Was it the need for approval? So this week, let's commit to one act of choice this week. You choose, however small it may seem. You're going to let your yes mean yes and your no mean no, regardless of what you think someone else may think about it. Proverbs 21:25 tells us, the fear of man bringeth a snare, but whosoever putteth his trust in the Lord shall be safe. This is a reminder that our self-worth and our decisions should not be in anchored in others' opinions, but in our own faith, in our inner truth, and our desires. The Superwoman myth is a seductive lie. It tells us that we could and should do it all. But I ask you, at what cost? Media and society would have you to think that you're not doing enough as a woman, as a wife, as a mother, or an employee if you're not constantly running around like a chicken with your head cut off. Keeping that stress is a badge of honor. Losing your hair, or not eating right, or not exercising, or taking time for self-care. Some women walk around like that's a badge of self-honor because they are people pleasing. Because, like, if you're not always tired or busy, then you're somehow on the brink of failure. That's not true. The myth of doing it all or having it all while working out and keeping a clean house, saving money or spending a lot of money, and having the best, most exciting lovemaking of all time is a lie with omission. This myth doesn't include the stress and the anxiety of unmet expectations, the fear of failure or looking weak or letting other people down. It doesn't include all of that when you put on that cape. For me, the fear of looking lazy is what kept me in people pleasing to the degree that I was for so long. Where is it written that we are not having success unless we're hustling harder, or we're grinding, or we're burning the candle at both ends? In my own life, I've learned that true strength lies in vulnerability, in admitting that I can't shoulder it all alone. I'm not in this world alone, right? It's in this admission that you find your true power. You don't have to do it all by yourself. The Proverbs 31 woman didn't, and we all look to her as a beacon and a guide, right? She is the absolute model of a successful woman with a business, a household, and a family. But she delegates tasks to other people. She plans and prepares for her family and her household by hiring people to do the jobs that would distract her from the other activities that only she can do, the activities that add wealth or would benefit her household or her family. Not only is the Proverbs 31 woman a woman who has developed a community to help her to achieve and create the environment she desires, she is a future thinker. She's able to develop her goals and create the plans to achieve them because she minimizes her stress and the desire to do everything herself, right? If you don't have a community right now, you can develop one. You can use vulnerability and ask for help. No one can read your mind. If you don't ask for help, then you probably won't get it. You can join an in-person or online group of people with the same interests and goals, but I don't suggest, and you need to be cautious of this, of joining a group or getting with people that all they want to do is get together and complain because you have the same problem. That's not the group you want to get with. Join a group of people that you can get solutions for your problems from, or you can find encouragement or accountability. Here's another thing that you can do. Identify one area in your life where you're stretched too thin. Now, this is contemplation. And is it work? Is it family? Is it for your personal goals? Choose one task in one of those categories, whatever is causing you stress, and then delegate it to somebody else. Release it this week, okay? And then watch as this act of letting go opens up space for growth and healing. You get more time to think about what it is that you want to do so that you can make an action plan. Never do anything for anyone who can just as easily do it themselves. This quote was from Amelia Earhart, and it highlights the importance of delegating tasks and not overextending yourself in the context of people pleasing. It inspires us to actually empower others to take responsibility for their own actions and the task when it's appropriate. And, as a business owner and as a leader, it's important to allow people to operate in their talent. And if you have a business, that's really difficult for you to relinquish some of the activities in your business. But if you want your business to thrive, if you want your business to scale, you have to learn how to delegate. Okay. And that leads to peace. Because in the pursuit of pleasing others and wearing that cape of invincibility, you forget that the one person who needs compassion the most is you. You need compassion. You need to be nicer to yourself, kinder to yourself. And just remember, self-care is not selfish, it's essential. It's in the quiet moments of self-reflection that you rediscover who you really are. And you get in sync with your purpose. You get to find out what it is that you want to do, what it is that you have a talent for, and what God has been leading you toward all along. Self-care is one component of self-worth. Because when you value yourself and you value your time and you show other people how to treat you, then they'll begin to value you and your time even more. So by taking self-care, it's not just an action that's going to benefit you personally, but it's also going to show people how to really be nicer to you. And you always talk about that people don't appreciate you. You have to appreciate yourself. I felt guilt with self-care. When I first started practicing self-care, taking an hour or two for myself for self-care, it kind of felt like I wasn't supposed to be doing it. But as I kept taking, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, until it grew to a regular routine of self-care, that guilt started to diminish. Because you know what I realized? I realized that everyone can manage themselves and the house won't burn down if I take time for myself for just a couple of hours. The people and the activities that you think that only you can handle will adjust to the new concept that you have of yourself for using self-care. When I first started practicing self-care, it was just me going outside and walking. I mean, I really hadn't been taking self-care, so I really didn't even have active workout clothes. I was in jeans, shorts, and a t-shirt walking. But what I did was I let everyone know, hey, I'm going out. I might be 10 minutes, I might be 15 minutes. But listen, don't call me, don't text me, don't share anything with me while I'm out this 15 minutes. And that does take some work because I made sure that I did what I was supposed to do before I left. But as I continued and my self-care grew, so did the expectations from everybody else. That, oh, she's on herself, she's doing this, she's doing XYZ, I'm not going to bother her. She'll be back in a moment. It got easier. Self-care is necessary because self-care activities are the time that you self-reflect. Sometimes the time you get alone or in fulfilling activities rejuvenates you and allows you to see yourself and your surroundings in a different light. How do you know if you need to make adjustments to your environment if you never take time to see what your environment is doing? If it is achieving a dream that you want, if it's just peaceful. See, here's what you should do. Carve out time for self-reflection. Just one session this week. You don't have to do it 5 days if that's not something that's already in your routine. Just do it one time. And then ask yourself, am I living true to myself, or am I playing a role for the comfort of others? I want you to promise to make choices that resonate with your deepest self, your deepest truth and desires. We've traveled together through the landscapes of people pleasing and the superwoman myth, uncovering the traps that they lay for us and the freedom that comes with authenticity and self-worth. Remember, sophisticates, it's not the cape or the applause that others give us where we find our strength, but it's in the courage to be unapologetically ourselves. and to do what works for us. As we close today's conversation on transcending the superwoman myth and people pleasing, remember that your true power lies in authenticity and self care. You are enough. Know that your true self is enough, and you have the ability to become the person who can live a life of true fulfillment. For deeper insights and strategies, I invite you to participate in the 5-day emotional reset challenge to take control of your emotional well-being. Subscribe to stay updated with empowering content designed for you to discover how sophisticated empowerment is really a lifestyle. Together, let's curate a life that's not just lived, but cherished and celebrated. Thank you for joining me on this journey.